Welcome back to another video. In today's video we're going to do a fun comparison between two really good modernish cartridges. On the left we have the 300 WSM, and on the right we have the very popular 7mm PRC. A subscriber of mine asked for a comparison because he's actually in the market to get one of these and he's trying to decide. So let's take a deep dive into both of these, see how they really compare to each other. And don't worry, 7mm PRC fans, I already know what you're going to do, coming at me with your pitchforks if I say something wrong. This is going to be the most fair, positive video about the 7PRC. Let's take a brief look at the history of the 300 Winchester Short Magnum. Winchester introduced this little guy in 2001. The idea of the 300 WSM was to mimic, almost get the same performance as a 300 Win Mag in a short action. And you know what? They've done just about that, at least with the lighter bullets. We'll look at the data. Honestly, I think this is a really good cartridge and does exactly what it was marketed as. Popularity-wise, this is the most popular short Magnum, but it never really took off like Winchester probably hoped. It does have a cult-like following. It is still somewhat popular, and as I said, it's a darn good cartridge. Let's go ahead and look at that performance. Popular bullets, at least in factory ammo, start 165 grain and up. We're looking at a velocity of almost 3,200 feet per second, a 180 grain at just about 3,100 feet per second. I've verified you can get over 3,100 with 180 grain bullets. What we're going to be comparing to the 7mm PRC today is a 190 grain AccuBond long range, which is what this is loaded up with. It's a good little bullet. And Nosler says just over 3,000 feet per second. It's really good performance in this short, fat little case. In late 2023, Hornady introduced their latest PRC, and well, it caught the hunting world and long-distance shooting world by fire. This thing has become extremely popular. It is well balanced. It is pretty quick. Honestly, this is a darn good do-it-all cartridge for North American game. Now, it isn't without its controversy. There are people that love it and those that hate it. And then, due to world conflicts and shortages, well, it kind of had a velocity issue with certain ammo. Hornady ammo can't get 3,000 feet per second, as you know, because they can't get access to Reloader 26. However, if you get the federal ammo, you can get 3,000 feet per second. So let's take a look at the data for the 7PRC. Okay, we are looking at a PDF of the 7PRC load data. We'll start with a 160 grain CX. You can hand load that up to 3,100 feet per second. And then what most people are interested in is like 175 grain and above. Maxing out at 3,000 feet per second. That is definitely obtainable with the Reloader 26. 180 grain bullet 2,950 and 190 grain at 2,900. That's some darn good performance, especially with these high FBC bullets. Let's do a water grain capacity measurement real quick. Honestly, I'm not 100% sure which one has more case capacity. If I had to guess, it's going to be the 7PRC, but I think it's going to be pretty close. Let's start with the 300 WSM and zero it. All right, 300 WSM for this specific case, full length resized, 80 grains even. Onto the 7PRC, let's go ahead and zero it. Okay. Would you look at that? 80.8, so a tiny bit more case capacity for the 7PRC. Let's start with the 7PRC with that 175 ABLR with a G1 of 648 and a muzzle velocity of 3,000 feet per second. you are almost at 3,500 foot-pounds of energy and roughly 25 foot-pounds of recoil. Out to 400 yards, your bullet's going 2,439 feet per second, 2,311 foot-pounds of energy, and 23 inches of drop. Now let's see what this does out to 800 yards. Bullet's going 1,943 feet per second. You're at 1,467 foot-pounds of energy and 140 inches of drop. Here's the 300 WSM data with the 190 ABLR with a G1BC of 0.597. And with it going 3,000 feet per second, it does have almost 3,800 foot-pounds of energy. You are going to have a little bit more recoil in the 300 WSM. You're pushing a heavier bullet at faster velocities than the 7 PRC. Out to 400 yards, the bullet's going almost 2,400 feet per second, and it has 2,418 foot-pounds of energy and 23.5 inches of drop. So at least to 400 yards, because you're shooting a heavier bullet, you're going to have just a tiny bit more energy in 300 WSM, but about a ½ inch more drop. But let's take this out to 800 yards. Your bullet's going 1,865 feet per second, and you have 1,467 foot-pounds of energy and 144.8 inches of drop. So there is more drop in the 300 WSM because of that lower BC bullet of about almost 5 inches. And then the energy, wow, these two are just about the exact same. Now let's compare what I believe to be maybe the best factory ammo from 300 WSM with the best factory ammo with 7 PRC. This is going to be a Winchester, also Nosler, also makes the exact same factory ammo with the exact same specs, velocity and all that. Muzzle velocity 2875, your energy 3488 foot-pounds at 400 yards, 2,285 feet per second, 2,200 foot-pounds, 26.1 inches of drop. Out to 800, your bullet's going 1,771 feet per second, 1,323 foot-pounds, 159.8 inches of drop. Now, if you get the Federal 175 ELDX factory ammo, you should be able to hit 3,000 feet per second. Look at that. Very close in energy with the 300 WSM. And at 400 yards, your bullet's going 2,470 feet per second, so almost 200 feet per second faster, and about 170 foot-pounds more of energy, and 4 inches roughly less of drop. At 800 yards, I think the 7 PRC starts taking advantage more. The bullet's going over 200 feet per second faster, and you have 200 more foot-pounds of energy and over 20 inches less of drop. So yeah, there's a decent advantage with the 7 PRC with factory ammo. Now let's look at another bullet that a lot of PRC fans really like, the 195 grain Burger EOL. Let's give it a velocity of 2,900 feet per second, and then we are going to have 3,642 foot-pounds of energy at 400 yards. The bullet's going 24 feet per second, 2,545 foot-pounds of energy, 24.3 inches of drop. 800 yards, bullets almost going 2,000 feet per second, and you have 1,726 foot-pounds of energy, 143.1 inches of drop. Now let's look at the 300 WSM as something that is, well, it's not really going to be fair. That's just the advantage of the 7mm, but we're going to use a 205 grain EOL. The BC is nowhere close to the 195 in the 7mm, but this is what we're going to use. Probably push it 25 feet per second. We are looking at 3,895 foot-pounds of energy. 400 yards, you're going 2,359 feet per second. Look at that, 2,533 foot-pounds of energy. Really close to the 7 PRC. And the drop is very similar. So the numbers are almost identical at 400. Let's look at 800. Bullets going 1,860 feet per second. And then there's about 150 foot-pounds less of energy. at 800 yards with the 300 WSM, and a 7-inch difference in drop. So yeah, the 7 PRC beats it. The 300 WSM is holding its own though. So which cartridge is better? Ballistically, well, the 7 PRC beats it. With hand loads, it's not a huge difference, but it does beat it. There is a lot more factory ammo in the 300 WSM, but you get a sizable advantage when you shoot factory ammo in the 7 PRC. Which one should you get? If you hand load, they're pretty close. If you shoot factory ammo, there is an advantage for the 7 PRC. If you're a big fan of 30 caliber, yeah, it's getting close to 7 PRC performance, and yeah, get a 300 WSM. But if you want the better performer with a little bit less recoil, get a 7 PRC.